Here's the incident number here, my name, dash number. If you have questions, you can call Crime Check. Now, I'm happy to talk some more. What do you want to talk
about your oath?
And how did I violate?
Your oath is the only reason you are what you are,
But
is to protect my constitutional rights.
the problem really happened when government gave corporations personhood. Okay? Because a corporation is considered a person, an entity, right? And so government granted companies protection as a person and property. All right? It shouldn't be like that, but that's the way it is right now, right?
You can give me the right to be a human being. I'm fine with that right. Now you can keep me from having that if you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to this body cam review session, and this is part 3 of an incident at a Sherry's Cafe and Pies in Spokane, Washington, where the Spokane Police Department was called out to this Sherry's for a woman going into the restaurant and not wearing her mask as she walked to the table, where once she sat down she wasn't necessarily required to wear her mask as no one else was in the restaurant. However, one of the supervisors came over and started asking and or demanding, I guess depending on perspective, to see a mask, and when it wasn't produced, she called the police to have this woman trespassed. So that's where we're at right now. Part 1 and 2 I've already done. There's a link in the description to those, as well as any of the sources I use in this video. So if you have not checked out part 1 and part 2, make sure you check those out first so that this will make a little more sense. He just told Heather, the supervisor, in part 2, where we left off, that he was going to go over and talk to this woman and try to get her to leave. Now, he knows there are rules about using force to actually get her to leave, and he knows that he's not authorized to do that in this situation. This episode is how he deals with that and gets her out of there, and then a couple of really important things, like the one you just heard at the beginning of this video, that he says once he has her outside of the restaurant. So let's get right into it. And with the other ones, this is a review of this body cam footage, so I will be stopping it periodically to make a few comments. If you don't like that, just getting that out of the way right now, you might not want to watch this video.
So, you guys get that figured out?
I think she's trying to get it figured out.
So she tried to get a hold of the regional manager. She talked to her general manager, and the regional manager is in a meeting, so they can't get a hold of him, and that's probably why you can't get a hold of him. So at this point, they're refusing your service.
Hey, I'd like to file a harassment charge against her.
The regional manager or the general manager agrees with her that they want you out.
I'd like to file a harassment charge against her.
She didn't harass you.
Yes, she did. Other people came over to defend me because of what she was doing to me here.
Well, let's define what harassment is under the law.
She was harassing me because of my religion. So I want a police report filed for harassment.
She did not threaten you in any way. That's harassment. Okay, so you have a civil case here, but you do not have a criminal.
I want a police report filed on her.
Okay. Let me explain again. You do not have a criminal case? Ma'am, are you listening to me?
Yes.
Right. You do not have a criminal case. You have a civil case. So nothing that she has done here towards you has been criminal.
I'm going to stop here real quick. I want to get into this. His job is to protect property rights, and I'm bringing this up because he's going to get into exactly this later, and he's even going to admit exactly what I'm going to say, that her body is her property. So he should be helping her defend her property rights. At the very least, he needs to be documenting what happened, maybe talking to a few of the other people there, so that that's his role now. Is he's like an official, he's a state official there, and he's there to document what happened and investigate and see if there was a crime, first of all, and he didn't really do that. to see if there was any harassment. I don't really think there was. I don't think any threats were made, like he said. But he should be, at the very least, documenting exactly what happened. That way she has this. She's paying for this service through her taxes, whether she wants to or not, through that theft mechanism that they disguise and call taxes. She's paying for it, so she might as well take advantage of the service and have him document what happened, interview a few of the people. And he's really resisting that, and now he's just in the mode of, I want to get you out, especially since she didn't just do what he wants. You'll see as the conversation goes on, he kind of gets a little more irritated with her. Basically, rather than help her and document it, like I said, he's trying to just kind of intimidate her, as you'll see as this progresses, and just get her out of there. That's his goal, not to document and help her protect her property rights.
Are you listening?
She's intimidating me. She came to this table. I was just sitting here, and she came here and intimidated me. She pulled the menu out of my hands.
So she wants you and your friend to leave.
Understand that. I want a police report filed against her.
Well, I can give you an incident number to document this incident.
Okay, make sure you get her name and everything on it.
It's already on the incident number.
Can I see it?
I'm not going to give you her information, but if you request the incident information, it will be up. Okay? So are you ready to leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm asking for legal advice.
I understand. Yeah, it's okay if you stand back here. Out of the way from the door.
How much longer do you think you're going to be?
I just trying to get an answer back to this.
Because they're not going to serve you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to serve you. And they want you guys to leave.
Well, the other place is trying to get a hold of the manager. I don't know why the general manager isn't talking to me.
Well, she already spoke to the general manager.
I don't think so.
Well, I was there when she called him and talked to him.
Yeah, but she didn't tell her the truth.
Okay. Well, who do you think she's going to believe? Her own staff, or him, the own staff, or some other person? She's probably going to take her staff side, right? Because she hired her as an assistant manager because she believes that she'll do a good job. So it's time to get up and go.
Okay.
I just want to highlight that real quick. Policy enforcer using logic rather than intimidation tactics. He does move on, as you just heard there. It's time to get up and go into intimidation tactics, but it's very rare that you hear them use logic on the job, because their job requires them to not use logic. But I guess when he's trying to not use force, he appeals to her because he knows he can't use force.
Yes, that's what
Please,
I'm doing.
you're
I am.
texting. You're not. You're moving your
Well-
fingers, but not your feet. I said you're moving your fingers, but not your feet.
Right. Yes, I am.
Okay.
I need the incident report.
I'll give it to you outside.
I don't believe you.
You think I'm lying to you?
I do.
I'll give you the incident number.
Is her name going to be in it?
I already told you it will be.
Her name and info will be in the incident report.
Yes.
And I will be.
She's the one who called. So it's part of the caller's always on there.
And how do I make sure that my info's in the correct
You can
way?
give it to me and I'll add it to the call.
No, I want, like, what's in the incident report.
You don't get to dictate what's in the incident.
No, I didn't. I'm asking you a general question about what's in the incident report.
It
That's
just
all
said
it is.
she called 911 because there was some issue with a customer about a mask.
Okay, and
That's
so
all I
then
got.
then her info will be there.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm just walking around.
It
I
won't
gotta
say.
keep my room moving.
It won't say something like somebody from Sherry's call.
Will you get up and leave, please?
Why would you go along with this kind of stuff?
I'm not going along with anything.
You are going along with it.
With what?
With discrimination.
She's not going to.
I didn't
She's
do
not
anything
gonna serve
wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. She is wrong. No, businesses
But she's
cannot
still not gonna serve.
arbitrarily come up and harass people and then take stuff from them and then try to search them and then say, I'm not going to serve you. That's crazy. That's crazy if you think that that is what a business is allowed to do in
Think that-
America.
Well, let's talk about it outside.
I just want to stop it one more time and point out that he just keeps trying to get her out here. That's all he did. Not once did he try to help her understand how to defend her property rights, her body, the rights of her body to go out in an area that's open to the public, to a public accommodation, and enjoy the full benefits of that public accommodation as allowed by Washington RCWs, which I'll get into here in just a little bit once we hear a little more of this conversation. I just think it's really important that he didn't really try to, he tells her, yeah, I'll give you the police report, but he's not trying to document anything, what happened. He had the conversation with the supervisor that we saw in parts 1 and part 2, but he hasn't really tried to document anything, talk to any of the other people who were there. This woman has already told him that other people came up to her, so they obviously observed what happened, some of them, and maybe he should be trying to talk to them. He's not doing any of that. He's trying to get her out because the other woman who called him there and has this belief that he's going to be able to save the day. Now he's got to appear to save the day for her, but he also has to try to appear to not violate his oath to the Constitution to this woman. That'll come up later too.
Is this your friend's stuff already?
Let me see what it is. I don't
Think so?
No, I think it might be there. I think it might be somebody who works here or something like that. Because I think my friend just had her only would have her purse.
Go.
Thank you so
No
much.
worries.
Thank you, Cindy.
You want to walk with me over to my car so I can give you a case number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, did you want to go to lunch?
Yeah, I've got to figure out.
I'm over here. I didn't write it down, so it's on my computer.
When the law enforcement does not uphold their orders to the Constitution, this is how communism is.
That's a private business too.
Private businesses by law have to serve everybody. They have to have a reason to do it. They can't just arbitrarily say,
I think
I don't like your religion, I'm not going to serve you. And especially because sitting at the table,
Your other option would have been just to sit there and be hungry all day.
sitting at the table
Hold on, I'm gonna
was
hear what you
not
have to say.
doing anything.
Yeah, you could have stayed there and.
I was not doing
Not eating.
one thing. But them not serving, that's like black people can go in there and sit and not get fed.
You
They
have-
can tell to the
you have
black
a-
people,
you have
well,
a
we're not
civil
going to
case.
serve you.
You have a civil case, okay?
Did you tell her that?
Yeah.
What'd she say?
Well, that's why she called her general manager and tried to get hold of her regional manager.
You have a name on the gal who caused the problem.
So I'll put some call notes in here. It'll document what you all both said, okay? And so it has all this information.
I specifically wanted to say that they were specifically punishing me because I walked from the door to the table. Because at the table, I was not doing one thing wrong, right? I wasn't doing anything wrong.
She wasn't doing anything wrong the entire time. I just want to point that out. She hadn't done anything to hurt anyone, damage or steal anyone else's property, or defraud anyone, nor had she made any threats to do that. Now, Heather and the other supervisor from Sherry's who advised her to have this woman removed, now they could possibly be on the hook for a trespass against this woman's property being her body by trying to force her to wear a mask or saying that you can't be in here. That can cause damage to her body. So unless they can prove that it won't, I don't think that they should be able to force her to do that. And that, you know, if we're playing this little game that they play, that could be a trespass against her body, her property. So damage to her body. And a threat, at least a threat of that, I guess, by saying you have to wear a mask to walk from here to here. You have to wear a mask. That's like a threat, you know, and if you don't, we're throwing you out. You know, we're not giving you a choice. You got to either sit out on the curb, you know, and we'll bring you your food because you won't obey what we want you to do, which is to walk from here to there with a mask. Or if you do that, then, you know, then it's okay. Then you can sit at the table like everyone else. Even though right now you aren't doing anything else different than anyone else sitting at a table. That's the point of this, is that's the threat, is like, no, you don't get to do this. You know, it cuts people out. So if we have these civil rights laws, then that's what this is about.
All I wanted to do was eat lunch.
Do you want your name in this report?
Nope.
Okay. So here's the incident number here. My name, dash number. If you have questions, you can call Crime Check. No, I'm happy to talk some more. What do you want to talk about?
About your oath.
And how did I violate?
Your oath is the only reason you are what you are, is to protect my constitutional rights. My rights. I'm born with these rights. I am born to be able to move freely. I am born to be able to go to this store or that store. It doesn't matter what religion I am. It doesn't matter what color I am. Those things don't matter. You can't say black people can't go shopping today. You can't say black people can get curbside service, but they can't eat at a table.
A business could say that.
No, they can't. That's
but it
it's
would
the
be
law.
It would be civilly discrimination, which is what you have a case.
But this is the deal. Do you know what the first thing
hold
that
on a
do you
second.
know what the first thing that the Washington State Constitution says?
Hold on. So you could have just stayed in there and sat there, but they're not going to.
I just want to point out real quick, this is just like what he said earlier, or what I said earlier as far as the trespass against her body. Now, just saying to a black person, no, you're not allowed to come into the restaurant and eat, you have to sit out on the sidewalk. That's not a threat or doing anything to damage their body. It's treating them differently, it's despicable, and it's horrible, and any restaurant or person who does that should be shamed out of business. But it's their right to do that. And like, so that's kind of what he's just trying to say here, is it's their right to do that. You have a civil lawsuit because we're in this corporation known as the City of Spokane. You do have a civil lawsuit because they've gone into contract with the City of Spokane and the state of Washington. Sherry's Restaurant does. He's saying you have a civil suit. And she does, just like the black person that hypothetically in the situation they just presented would have had to eat out on the sidewalk as well, or get their food out on the sidewalk. But the difference, like I said, is they were trying to force her to wear a mask. And that is something that studies have shown that is not good for you. So if it was good for you, why wouldn't we just walk around with them all the time? Because there's always viruses and bacteria and things out there that we could be picking them up through the air. So if it was good for us, we'd be wearing them all the time. So like I said, that is something that could be damage to her body. That is an actual trespass according to the RCWs in the state of Washington and the U.S. federal codes. That is an actual trespass. So there is a difference between what those two comparisons there. There are both civil lawsuits, but one of them actually has a criminal aspect to it as well, because it is a threat of damage to the body.
Serve you. If I hadn't asked you to leave, you'd just been sitting there. Is that what you?
Yes, that is what I wanted to do.
You wanted to just sit there and?
That is what I wanted to do. Yes.
How long though?
It didn't matter. I was texting people. Like, this is a big deal. People should be able to just move freely. And I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Let me explain my conundrum we have here.
Okay.
Okay, because for me, one of the most important things I do as a police officer is protect property rights. And that includes your body and the things that you earn with your body, like
Did you hear that? That includes your body.
most important things I do as a police officer is protect property rights. And that includes your body and the things that you earn with your body, like through your labor, like your vehicle, your clothes, money, right? And this is someone's property, right? And it doesn't belong to you, right? So I have to weigh property rights, them not wanting you on their property, versus what you're dealing with, okay?
I didn't do anything wrong for them not to want me there.
Okay, we're going to go into this property rights issue since he's talking about it and he says he has to weigh theirs versus hers. So, let me pull up some RCWs here and we will go over it. Let's just establish, so what is a trespass? Because that's where everyone says they should be able to tell her, no, she can't be there, it's private property. So, trespass in the criminal trespass in the first degree, 9A.52.070. A person is guilty of criminal trespass in the first degree if he or she knowingly enters or remains unlawfully in a building. Okay, so unlawfully. Let's figure, so then that means, I'm going to go through a couple of these and then we're going to have to figure out, well, what does it mean to remain unlawfully in a building? We're going to find that out. So let's move on. RCW 9A.52.080, criminal trespass in the second degree. A person is guilty of criminal trespass in the second degree if he or she knowingly enters or remains unlawfully in or upon premises of another under circumstances not constituting criminal trespass in the first degree. And that can be just on the premises, not inside the building. That's what it says here. Remains unlawfully or upon the premises of another under circumstances not constituting criminal trespass in the first degree. Okay, so that's what the two criminal trespasses are. Now we're going to look at defenses. RCW 9A.52.090, criminal trespass, defenses. In any prosecution under RCW 9A.52.070, that's criminal trespass first degree that we just read, and 9A.52.080, that's criminal trespass in the second degree, which we also just read. It is a defense. Number two, the premises were at the time open to members of the public and the actor complied with all lawful conditions imposed on access to or remaining in the premises. So what that means is if it was open to the public, a business during its business hours is open to the public and complied with a lawful condition. So that means a law, right? That means one of these codes, one of these RCWs. So they have to be complying with all of those. And if they weren't, then they can be trespassed. So it's not about Sherry's having a policy that says you're not allowed to do this. It's about there being a law that says, or a code or a statute for the city of Spokane, which is a corporation, or the state of Washington, which is a corporation. If there's a code or one of their laws or statutes that says, one of man's laws that says you can't violate this, then you're violating a law, and then they can trespass you from there. So like if you start harassing someone there, you make threats to someone, that's harassment, that's a criminal law. So they would that's a criminal violation, so they could trespass you from there. If you actually hurt someone, obviously that's a violation of a law. They can trespass you from there. So there's different ways that they could do it. If you were possibly using a bullhorn in there might be some little small municipal code or something like that says you can't use an amplification device like that. So they could possibly use that to try to trespass you as well. But those are the only ways they can trespass you. As long as you haven't done anything wrong, they cannot legally trespass you, even from a private property that is at the time open to the public. And that means, I hate to say it, if you have a garage sale and you have opened a portion of your property to the public, that would apply there as well, just for reference for those interested. And I just want to real quick, we covered this in part 1 and or 2, but I just want to cover this too. So civil rights terms, let's see, there's one in here, the full enjoyment. Okay, this is important right here. Any place of public resort, accommodation, assemblage, or amusement is hereby defined to include but not limited to any place, licensed or unlicensed, kept for gain, hire, or reward, or where charges are made for admission, service, occupancy, or use of any property or facilities, whether conducted for the entertainment, housing, or lodging of transient guests, or for the benefit, use, or accommodation of those seeking health, recreation, or rest, or for the sale of goods and merchandise, or for the rendering of personal services, or for the public conveyance or transportation on land, water, or in the air, blah, 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 blah. It goes on to a lot more things, but we already covered exactly what's happening here at this restaurant, that it's for goods and services that are being rendered there. And so that's right here. This is the definition, denial of civil rights, terms defined. That's RCW 9.91.010, the Declaration of Civil Rights, terms defined, Section D, any place of public resort and accommodation. And the full enjoyment shall be construed to include the right to purchase any service, commodity, or article of personal property offered or sold on or by any establishment to the public, and the admission of any person to accommodations, advantages, facilities, or privileges of any place of public resort, accommodation, assemblage, or amusement without acts directly or indirectly causing persons of any particular race, creed, or color to be treated as not welcome, accepted, desired, or solicited. So there you go. Those are the terms defined right there. Let's see. I want to go into this, removal of unauthorized persons. So this is like a declaration form here. So they have to, anyone who's being trespassed from a property, the police have to fill this out as part of the trespass in the state of Washington. This is 9A.52.115. Right here, Section 7 of this. The premises were not open to members of the public at the time the unauthorized person or persons entered. So that's why he can't trespass her, is because he cannot fill that out on there. They were open to the public. Another one here, RCW 9A.52.115. Let's see here. So this is removal of unauthorized persons, the declaration form, penalty for false swearing. So this is saying there's a penalty if you give false information on this form. Right here, again, it states in Section 7, the premises were not open to members of the public at the time the unauthorized person or persons entered. So entered. And one last one here, RCW 49.60.030, freedom from discrimination, declaration of rights. Just want to read this one to you to sum it up. The right to be free from discrimination because of race, creed, color, national origin, citizenship or immigration status, sex, honorably discharged veteran or military status, sexual orientation, or the presence of any sensory, mental, or physical disability, or the use of a trained dog guide, or service animal by a person with a disability is recognized as and declared to be a civil right. This right shall include, but not be limited to, the right to obtain and hold employment without discrimination, the right to the full enjoyment of any of the accommodations, advantages, facilities, or privileges of any place of public resort, accommodation, assemblage, or amusement. So right there, I just wanted to read that part because he did bring up that he felt like she had a good civil case, and I would agree with him. I just feel like he should have helped her document it more in protecting her property rights. Let's move back to the video here and move on. All those sources, as I said in the beginning of this video, as well as anything else that I use in this, are linked in the description of this. So make sure to check it out. I will also say real quick, I am an anarchist, a voluntarist. I do not believe in this structure of government that it is backed by the use of force, and that's the only reason it exists, is because of their force. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with all these RCWs with trespassing. I think of private property completely differently. That's a discussion for another video, not this one. But I don't necessarily agree with Sherry's being able to say, no, I don't want to serve you. I told you to wear a mask. This is my property. I want you to get off of here if you're not going to wear a mask. Honestly, if that's Sherry's private property and that's their policy, in my opinion, as an anarchist, they should be able to do that. I don't like it, and I would that's part of this video, that's part of these series, is to show how Sherry's treated someone that was trying to go there voluntarily and spend their hard-earned money with them and give them their resources through a voluntary interaction. That's what I do support. So I'm highlighting how Sherry's is an unethical restaurant by calling in this this force, basically. That's what the Spokane Police Department represents, is force to try to get to intimidate this woman and try to get her to leave against her will, as they're just going to get into right now, that, or as they just spoke about, that she didn't have to leave. So he basically intimidated her into leaving because Heather, the supervisor, wanted her to. Even though she wasn't doing anything wrong, he intimidated her to. She could have stayed there. He does make a point. What are you going to prove if you stay here? But you know what? If she wanted to have like a one-woman protest and just stay there, as long as it was open, she could have done that. And she would have been within her legal, lawful right under the civil rights law and under the trespass law, under the open and public accommodations, all of that. She was there lawfully and able to do what she was doing, and he intimidated her into ending that. And that's my problem with how he handled this whole thing. As an anarchist, that's my problem with it. And also, I guess, even as a statist who supports these laws, that's how you should look at this. If you support those laws, if you think you should get rid of them, okay. But right now, the state says those are the laws that exist.
I didn't do anything,
But
and
they
I
said
wasn't
that you're
doing
calling
anything.
them Nazis.
That was after she took the menu out of my hand, made a big scene that everybody, like people came up to me afterwards because of the scene she made. I was not making a scene. I was only sitting there with a menu in my hand to order. She just did all of this.
But her major issue was the name calling.
No, it wasn't. That was her excuse.
I'm telling you what she told me.
Yeah, because it's her excuse.
She hates the mask thing. It's a corporate thing. That's what she told me.
She's a liar.
I agree with her here. Heather, I do believe, is lying. She doesn't hate the mask thing. She doesn't like it, but she's such a slave to her corporate masters and her fiat currency and being able to have the things that she thinks keep her happy in her life, that she feels compelled to wear that mask. So obviously she doesn't hate it. If she hated it and didn't, she wouldn't wear it, and she'd say, no, I'm not doing this. I guess, I don't know, maybe she can hate the mask. I guess she just maybe doesn't see the evil in it. I don't know, maybe that's a judgment on her. But to me, it seems disingenuous and intellectually dishonest, at the very least, to say that you hate the mask when you're trying to force someone else to, at the very least, show you they had a mask in their purse just to walk over to the table. Sorry for trying to apply logic there.
Because I was just sitting there. She was trying to search me. She doesn't have a right to search me.
Are you saying she reached in your pockets?
No, she's making me show her what was in my purse.
So that's not her searching you. That's her asking you to show what's in your stuff. That's not.
Yeah,
the
but
same.
when I said no, then she's going to kick me out. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So you.
She makes a very good point there. That is a threat. Like, you have to show me what's. I want to search your. It's not a threat, I guess. It's I want to search your belongings, and if you don't, now I'm going to treat you differently than everyone else. It's treating someone else differently. So she does have a civil suit here. I don't know about like threat and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I don't understand this. This is like the statist mentality. I'm not trying to insult anyone when I say that. I'm just saying this is the statist mentality of government exists because of force, and I want to use that force to get someone to do something that I want them to do that they maybe don't necessarily want to do voluntarily. And that's what it's about. For everybody that believes in government, ultimately that's what they think it's about, is I want you to serve me, so I'm going to use the force of government to sue you civilly and take money from you so that you as a threat to make you serve me. And on the other hand, it's I don't want you here because you didn't follow one of my silly little rules that we just made up that doesn't, that violates the non-aggression principle. And so, well, I guess that you don't like one of the silly little rules that we have that we've made up to come dine in our establishment, so we want you to leave, and we're going to call this threat of violence, the Spokane Police Department, to intimidate you to leave, because you didn't show us, you didn't submit to our search of your purse and your belongings to make sure you had a mask. So she's right, it is an intimidation and it is a search. I don't know if that's a violation of law. To me, it just seems like I'm not going to that property anymore. Those guys aren't cool, and I'm going to tell everyone else in my community how much, that they're not cool. How they treat people that are just trying to go there and spend our resources there. So anyhow,
A civil discrimination case, but you see how I have to weigh what you're saying, right? She didn't call me and say. She said that you were being rude to her, calling her a Nazi, and because she'd asked to see your mask, and you just walked to the table without showing it.
She didn't ask to see it. You know what she said to me?
Do you have a mask?
She said, "Do you have a mask?"
Okay.
And I said,
I think that's correct.
And I said yes.
Okay.
And I walked to the table.
And then she came over.
sat down.
And then she said, "I just need to see it."
And I said, "Show me the law."
Okay, great. So
And then she said she doesn't have to show me the law, and then she said she doesn't have to serve me, and then she just went on and on. Okay. Then she took away the menus, and it's like, hello, like, she doesn't have anything to do with my life. I came in there to get a service that they provide. I was sitting at the table like everybody else that was in the restaurant. I wasn't doing anything different than anybody else in the restaurant.
She had no awareness of any religion.
And she doesn't need to.
Okay.
Because I was sitting at a table like everybody else.
That until you told me that it was a religious thing, right? So, and then you had already called her a Nazi.
She's right. She doesn't need to say anything about her religion. It says right in the mandate that there are exemptions and that you don't have to ask about them. So in my opinion, like a lot of the stores did and seemed to be okay and not get hassled by the state and its threat of violence and extortion and force, was just to assume if someone came in and wasn't wearing a mask that they had some sort of exemption and not embarrass them in front of everyone else because they have an exemption. That seemed to be how a lot of places handled it. Apparently Sherry's doesn't want to handle that, and that's, like I said, part of this video is exposing how Sherry's treats its customers, so people can keep that in mind and how they want to spend their resources, and maybe choose to not spend them at Sherry's as a solution rather than sue Sherry's or use the state as a threat of some sort of extortion or violence against them. That's just the 2 cents from an anarchist or voluntarist perspective.
Well, if she would have showed me the law, what I was going to point out to her was that there's an exemption. That's what that was the reason I was saying to her, go get me the law thing, because I was going to go, okay, do you see what this says? This is why this is not an issue.
So I'm just trying to explain to you that for me, one of the most important things is the protection of property rights. All freedoms stem from the protection of property rights. And that's why this is such a conundrum, where you're on private property, and they don't want you there, and it's their property. So really, in terms of real property rights, they shouldn't have to have a reason.
They do, because that's what I'm trying to tell you. The first thing in the Washington State Constitution says that the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a supreme law of the land. And there are other laws in the Washington State Constitution that are so specific that say that if you are a business open, you have to let everybody in. So
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
And that's important too. And
that is majorly important.
Right, and that's why instead of just coming in saying, get up and go or I'm going to arrest you, I didn't do that, right? I handled it. I try to handle it judicially and let you get a hold of regional manager, and she's contacting people.
Yeah, but this is the deal. You're not dealing correctly with them. To say to them, you are a business. In Washington State, the law is, and the 1964 Discrimination Act, if you decide to be...
But that's civil.
Yeah, but if you
My
decide...
domain is mainly in the protection of property rights.
It isn't, though. It's my rights that you're supposed to be protecting, not corporate rights.
Property rights.
My right.
Your and everyone else's.
My right to just live my life with freedom and liberty.
Yeah, but not just yours, everybody's.
Yeah, but I wasn't doing anything wrong.
So I have to weigh your right.
But I wasn't doing anything.
In conjunction with theirs, okay?
I was there doing what they do.
Do you understand my perspective here? I'm telling you that it's not an easy thing to deal with because I have to weigh your...
Yeah, but you know what? I've never seen...
You say, do you understand my perspective? It's not an easy thing to deal with. That's why I have a gun and am authorized to use force when I give a directive and people don't follow it. Most of the time that is because these situations aren't easy, and it's easier if it's just might equals right to solve the situation.
A policeman actually stand up for a person. They always side with corporate. Always. You didn't go over to her to say, do you know how bad you're going to get sued because you're violating this person's right? You didn't sit there and explain it to her.
Actually, I did explain that it was a civil issue and that she had civil liability. I explained all that to her. And that she was running a risk. And that's why she called her general manager. And that's why she tried to get a hold of her corporate manager. Because I did say that. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go in and talk to them. And then, do you have any questions for me?
No, just that she's going to be sued big time. And this Sherry's restaurant is going to get major bad press and stuff. And the whole thing is, when are the police actually just going to stand up for the people so that people know this isn't going to happen? Do you understand? That now they have more freedom to harass more people, to discriminate against more people.
The problem really happened when government gave corporations personhood. Okay?
Against more people.
The problem really happened when government gave corporations personhood. Okay? Because a corporation is considered a person, an entity, right? And so government granted companies protection as a person and property. All right? It shouldn't be like that, but that's the way it is right now, all right? I'm going to go talk to companies protect, okay? Because a corporation is considered a person, an entity, right? And so government granted companies protection as a person and property. All right, it shouldn't be like that, but that's the way it is right now, all right?
So he just said a corporation is a person, an entity, just like you, right? So it has the same rights as you. So do you believe you're free in America if you're the same as a corporation? I believe that this officer is now even more highly unethical than I ever thought in my book, because he completely understands what is going on, yet he still continues to accept money stolen from the people, whether they agree with his job or not. and then go out and enforce these codes and statutes against the people, favoring corporations in reality. How can he, not only the ethics of where his paycheck comes from, things like that, and the fact that he uses force against people who haven't done anything to anyone else, or at least the threat of force to intimidate them to do things against their will. Outside of that aspect of his of his ethics and how unethical he is, look at the fact that he understands the scam that is government and the way it deals with corporations and people, and that they're all the same type of entity and they all have the exact same protections. That's not the way our government was supposed to be set up. Our government was supposed to be set up to protect, our government was not set up to protect the rights of the people. Our government was set up to restrain, as a restraint on government and what its abilities to infringe on the freedom of people is. It wasn't set up to protect the rights of corporations. It was set up as a constraint on government. So now he's admitted that it is now to protect the rights of corporations, of a person, which is a corporation, an entity, a legal entity, a fiction. And he understands this, and he still goes out and does his job every day. This is why I say there's no such thing as a good cop. This guy tried to handle this pretty well. I mean, he did a pretty good job as far as just trying to de-escalate the situation and get her to leave without having any citations or anything like that, just leaving with a civil suit possibly. So he did a pretty good job of that. But the fact that he understands what I just explained and just keeps on doing this, that's why there's no such thing as a good cop, because deep down he can't be a good person and keep going on with that. And if you don't understand that, you need to look into what confirmation bias is and cognitive dissonance, because that's why you're not allowing yourself to understand that.
I'm sorry that this happened to you, alright?
Well, I just wish that you would just be really serious about
No, I just wanted to, if you wanted to talk to me or anything.
Is there anything I need to know?
Just left.
Okay.
I just wanted to know if you had any questions.
No.
Alright, I'll get out of here.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm just going to stop it one more time here. I just wanted to point out that all this is about health, all this masking, blah, 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 all this stuff. So she's all forcing someone to wear a mask just to walk to their table inside the restaurant. And then she comes out the back of the restaurant, takes off her mask, and puts a cancer stick in her mouth. I personally don't smoke cigarettes. I know what's in them, and I do not believe in inhaling that stuff into my lungs. If other people want to do it, that's up to them. But I'm just saying, like, here you are enforcing something that's about health, allegedly, and then you're going out and smoking one of those. That just, again, a whole lack of logic in Heather and what she's doing there. And this is the problem with society. This is why we are going down the path we're going, is exactly because of people like her. You need to wake up, Heather. Alright, that's the end there. I just want to stop it right there so we can see the policy enforcer's reflection in this car. So you can see what he looks like. You got to hear him in all three of those parts. Like I said, this is proof right here, at least in my opinion, that there's no such thing as a good cop because of what he said at the end of that. I will be back with a little bit more about this. It's not a part 4 of this body cam footage. It's actually from when myself and some people from People's Rights in this area went to visit Sherry's just to draw attention to this locally. I will be bringing that to you in the next couple of days, so make sure you watch out for that. And until the next time, remember, the only way to live free is through self-governance. And remember, until the next time, the only way to live free is through self-governance.